Hello, and welcome to the Anything Appalachia podcast, produced by Germain Media. In each episode, we wander up and down the hills and hollers of old Appalachia, talking about its unique history, culture, and even some of the important issues facing it today. Please welcome our hosts, Scott Ballard and Kelly Germain.
Hello, and welcome to Germain Media, and a little thing we call
Anything Appalachia,
where we get a update as to what's going on with Germain Media. We'll also take a trip to the Jumpingoff Place, where we'll jump off into a topic and just see where it takes us. Down the rabbit hole, who knows where we're going to go.
Did you know that Ashe County is called the Jumpingoff Place?
Yes, actually, that's actually what my dad called Ashe County.
I know.
And so I get it. But we can, it's not really the jumping off place, but we can see it from here.
That's it.
Okay. And then we'll have a segment called Them's Fightin' Words, where we'll cover some of the hot topics facing Appalachia.
And there's many.
And there are. There's no short supply of those. And we'll have a brief visit with our sponsor, and then we'll check in with the See and Say toy.
The mystical See and Say.
It's like a Ouija board. It's like you never know where it's going to go, right? And then you've got from our audience, you've got the question of the week, and whoever's question we pick, they get a free hat and T-shirt from Germain Media. So we appreciate all of their. I know. Okay.
All right, here we go. Let's jump right in, Scott. Come on, you're meandering all over the place. Let's jump off on the Jumpingoff Place.
Well, we
need to do an update.
You're jumping ahead. You're jumping ahead.
Our producer has me so nervous that he's like, keep shaking that bell at us. Let's go, boys. Let's go.
I know. It's like the little shot collar. It's
so
like a shot
I
collar.
just skipped 3 things on our agenda and get ready, so we're back on track.
So Kelly, what's happening these days at Germain Media?
Well, I'm excited to announce that we have just gone live with a new website for the Museum of Ashe County History. I would encourage everybody to go check that out at, what is the domain name? The domain name is...
Tristan.
It's in the link right here below.
Fix it in post.
That's right. But as with any good website, it's a work in progress. We're going to keep adding to it. We're going to do some videos. Ashe County is so blessed to have a amazing courthouse museum in the old historic 1904 courthouse. And we were just excited that they asked us to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And what better partnership, I think, with all of the passion that we have for history to be a part of that as well.
It's right up our alley. But our producer's gesturing at us. All right, so come on, Scott, Jumpingoff Place.
I'm Scott Ballard, your host, along with Kelly St. Germain, and off-camera slave driver, whispering Tristan Ham. All right, so we're going to get to the Jumpingoff Place, and we're going to jump up north, I believe.
That's right. We're going to talk about migrations. Migrations. A lot of people don't realize that there's multiple migrations that have taken place out of Ashe County and in the North Carolina high country. Probably the first one that I know of was in the 1890s when a lot of people from around here headed out west. You remember where they were going?
Oregon, Washington State.
And Washington, that's right. There was a number of families. And the reason we know this is we've read some of the old letters that are still in the families here that were sent from their relations that had migrated all the way to Washington and the fertile valleys of Oregon.
I know that a member of my family, many years ago would receive letters like that, and it was so tempting.
Yes.
So tempting, but he never left the farm. He actually stayed, but he would go through a funk, if you will, for probably a week or two, just fighting the urge to join or go to Texas. They were in Texas as well, going out west in that era. And a lot of it, of course, was driven by economics.
Absolutely. There were, very little opportunities in the North Carolina high country. Agriculture was the only thing that was happening here. And right up through the Civil War, you started getting a lot of younger sons with nowhere to farm and no jobs, no prospects. And that probably triggered the next big migration, during the 1940s when a lot of people left the high country. I mean, thousands went to places like Maryland to work in. There was a famous shoe plant up there that we've researched.
Beta
shoe.
The Beta shoe.
A lot of them went up to work in Philadelphia in the tire plants, in Detroit in the auto plants. And, you know, it was almost like a diaspora or diaspora?
Either way.
Either way, of people going out in little communities of Appalachian Hill folk. You know, to this day, there's still communities and parts of those different towns that have relations of people living here.
Well, it reminds me of the saying was reading, writing, and Route 21, which headed up north.
That's right. Well, I-77 was called the Hillbilly Highway.
That's right. And so the precursor to that was Route 21.
Right before that.
And it reminds me of Joe Clark, who termed himself as the Hillbilly Snap Shooter.
Love his work.
We
Love
did.
it.
Oh, incredible stuff.
Yeah.
And he was from Cumberland Gap, Tennessee. He used to say that Henry Ford, he was up in Detroit. Henry Ford was paying us hillbillies $5 a day to build that town. That's the truth.
It is. Absolutely.
That migration, that outflow of incredibly hardworking folks built much of the upper Midwest.
And the exciting thing is, you know, we're seeing the children of the people who left back in the 40s. You know, they're all around retirement age. A lot of them are coming back to Ashe County and Allegheny and Avery, you know, Johnson City, Grayson County, and are coming back here to retire. You know, it's like the thing has come full circle, and they're coming home.
Well, there's land, there's opportunity in terms of getting your little 40 acres and a mule. You know, it's you can do that in Ashe County. You can still do that.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the term I think it's primogeniture, where it was the old English tradition where the oldest male in the family is who got the farm, because they knew that you can't keep splitting the farm up.
Right.
And that actually happened with my grandfather.
Really?
Is that the oldest son received most of the land. When we were, the Ballards in Virginia were land rich and cash poor, and the oldest got the land, and the rest of the family got a handshake, and you know, and that was basically it.
Same exact thing happened in my family. On my mother's side was a Virginia family, a younger son who emigrated to Owensboro, Kentucky, and started a farm out there in tobacco country.
So there you go. And so the Great Migration, if you will, was roughly, if you look at decades, 1940 to 1970.
Right.
That was the main, but it's happened on and off forever.
Yeah. If you go back and look at some of the earliest family names that came to the high country,
they're not here.
Most of them went somewhere else. And you know why? Because it was hard to make a living here. I mean, farming on a side hill is not an easy way to make a living.
Yeah. And I think that was part of it as well. Subsistence farming is just subsistence, meaning you live hand to mouth.
That's right.
It's not a way to get ahead.
And if you have a bad season, bad weather, it can make living even harder.
Okay. Yep. So next on our list of things to do, we bring out the Hulk hand for them's fighting words. And today we're going to talk about, what are we talking about?
We are talking about getting above your raisin.
Ooh. You know, that is a great segue from migrations.
Yes, it is.
Did you plan that? Maybe I planned it. I don't remember planning it.
It's speechless, Scott.
That doesn't happen very often.
It was so smooth until we messed it up.
Oh, no, I think if we just rolling with
Keep going. Don't let them know.
Yeah, don't let them know. So getting above your raisin, you know, pro and con. I'm happy to take either side of that.
Well, I think I know you've told a good story about your grandfather in the past in the red clay hills of Georgia.
Oh, my goodness.
Tell us about him.
Well, he was one of 7 sons. Can you imagine being the mom of that? Being the mom of that brood.
Wow.
7, you know, keep 7 boys in brogans and in overalls.
In food.
And food. When you have a metabolism of a cheetah. And plus they're working out in the yard. They're working out in the fields like all day long. So, but anyway, it was said of him, and it was a put down. It was a put down at the time. It says, we're not going to be able to make a farmer out of Robert. We're going to have to educate him.
Wow. We're not going to be able to make a farmer of him. Let's educate him.
I mean, because that was the standard of the day, is that you're a farmer. That's what you do.
That's right.
And there was
Don't get above your raisin.
Don't get above your raisin. That's and there was great, I think there was respect for farmers. Not that there isn't today, but it was what people did.
Yeah.
And so the next thing He's on a train to Cumberland Gap, Tennessee for the newly minted Lincoln Memorial University. And
Beautiful spot right under the Gap.
exactly. And the rest is history.
Wow.
So, but getting above your raisin really to me, I mean, as a parent, and those of you out there who are parents, we want better for our kids. Yeah. We want them to have a better life than we've had, even today. I mean, even with all the accoutrements that we have, we still want maybe our kids' lives to be less stressful, perhaps.
I think absolutely.
Without taking away the challenges that make them who they are. Yeah. I mean, that is a dance. Oh, yes, my goodness. But we're not. This is not the parenting segment of the show, although it could be. But I think that is not getting above your raisin is, don't forget your roots, people. Don't forget where you came from, because that made you who you are. Let me tell you a quick thing about what I did when I was an educator at the alternative school. One of the things, it was sneaky. You had to be sneaky sometimes to get these kids to really buy into the learning. And one of the things that we did was we did an ancestry quest.
Okay.
And I remember
genealogy?
Exactly. Thank you. That's what I was trying to say. And so what we did was we did sort of the origins of your names. And one kid's last name was Shoemate, which is not an uncommon name in Ashe County.
Very common.
But as you may know, what do you think the country of origin is for Shoemate?
It's got to be England.
Actually, it's French.
Really?
It's Shumat. Yeah. And so this kid, and so the sneaky part of it was, this was also like global geography, because we talked about France. Well, so-and-so, your family's probably from France. Paris, let's je veux manger. Let's
Je m'appelle Kelly. I remember that from high school French.
There you go.
But not much else.
So that was my sneaky way to get them to not only connect with their past, because I think it's so important. It takes them out of themselves,
right.
That it's all about them, that they're from somewhere. They
have roots.
They have roots, exactly. And also the sneaky part of the geography piece.
Absolutely. So whatever it takes.
Yeah. So that was, not getting above your raisin is really just connecting with your roots. And it's something that we at Germain Media feel is vitally important.
That's what we're all about. Everything we do is about, saving those stories, remembering who we are and where we came from.
And the way we can keep doing that.
Oh, perfect segment.
Is talking about our sponsor.
And Scott, today's podcast is sponsored by our audience members. They can do that by going to patreon.com/Germain Media. Help us tell the stories you love to watch. Help us to take the photographs you love to see. Help us save Appalachian history. It's easy to set up, and you can donate as little as $1 a month while earning great rewards. Please visit patreon.com/Germain Media. We can't do it without you. Please consider becoming our patron at patreon.com.
Thanks. And thanks to all of you who've already done that and are considering doing that, because it makes a huge difference in producing things like this and all the thousands of photographs and the stories that we tell, that we love to tell. And now it's time to take that incredible career risk by letting a children's toy dictate the topic of our program.
I'm scared to pull the lever.
Would you want me to do it? We need Vanna White. We need somebody else to do this.
Every week we pull this, I'm always at a loss. What did it say? What did it say? Here we go.
All right, we're totally good.
Yep, we got a dog. So, a dog, what does it correspond to? A dog corresponds to traditions. What are old Appalachian mountain traditions that we can talk about, that we've heard about, that people have told us about over the last 5 or 6 years?
I'd love to go with a blue tick hound, but I'm going to go with Christmas instead. I'm going to pick the low-hanging fruit.
Christmas is a wonderful tradition in the Appalachian Mountains, and one that back 50 years ago was a lot different than it is today.
A lot different. And folks, they always celebrated Christmas. Christmas was a tradition from the get-go. Christmas cards, came into. They've only been around for about 75 years as well, but it was always very special. The kids just didn't get anything like they get today. Sometimes not even presents
No, we've had more than one person tell us that.
I can see the look of horror in their face.
They're running for the doors now, trying to hit the shut off button.
All right, kids,
so their
kids.
parents don't get any ideas.
Kids, this was long ago.
Yeah, but in our world of opulence today, it's hard to think back. It's hard for us to even comprehend how it was in the 30s when more than one person has told us that if they got a orange for Christmas, it was memorable.
Well, one set of my great-grandparents only received a stocking hung by the hearth. We get the stockings today, but it's almost sort of, that's the last thing you get to.
That's the icing on the cake.
Right. So they would get a stocking full of some things like maybe a new pair of socks. But you know what? That was significant.
It was, absolutely.
A brand new pair of socks was significant. But what my great-great-grandmother would do is she would make a gingerbread man. She called it the Cookie Man. And she would put him, or her, I guess, gender neutral, perhaps. I don't know how anatomically correct the gingerbread man was.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it was a gingerbread man.
And so his arms would be holding himself at the top of the stocking. And so that was the great treat, was to gobble down the gingerbread, the Cookie Man, as they were working through whatever was in their stocking. So that was an enduring tradition in Christmas.
Absolutely. So. That's a great one. All right. Are we ready for question of the week?
Is this like a test? Is this?
We're never ready.
We're never ready for that.
We're never ready.
We will do our best to answer your questions.
Well, today's question comes from Roger in Avery County. Roger, we appreciate you taking the time to send us a question. His question is, and this is a classic one, do people get nervous when you interview them?
Yes and no.
Mostly yes.
Mostly yes.
Mostly yes, because, the people we're filming have never been on camera before 95% of the time. These aren't movie stars that are used to having, cameras thrust in front of their face. They're your grandmother and your grandfather.
Well, I think the beauty of what we do when we do it, when we're on the road, is that, A, number one, we have a good time.
That's all about
B,
having a good time.
We love what we do.
Yep.
And so, give us 10 or 15 minutes in your living room, literally, just invite us over, and you'll be more comfortable, because really it's just a conversation.
That's all it is. People think that they have to stare into the camera and
or be on.
And that scares me. I don't like doing it right now. I'd rather look over at you. And that's what we do when we're interviewing people.
Right.
You never stare into a camera. The camera's an insect on the wall. You and Scott or you and me, or we're just going to have a conversation. And, oh, by the way, there's a camera over there. Don't ignore it. Let's just talk about how things used to be back when.
And even with that, there are some folks, we've had at least one instance that we didn't even know this was happening in the moment.
It's funny. People have nervous tics that they don't even realize they have. Myself, for instance, my wife tells me when we're doing these podcasts, she says, quit adjusting your glasses. I'm doing it all the time. I don't even realize it.
Well, this one was the gripping.
And I don't know if he realized it, but he was sitting in a leather chair and you could see the cords, the veins popping up and down his arms. He was like this on that leather chair.
Oh, it was squeaking and it was... Because in the moment, we're conducting the interview, and in my mind, I'm thinking of the next question and keeping the interview going. And so I did not hear him or even see it.
It was one of the first interviews that we ever did.
True.
And I knew it was happening, but I thought it would be rude to tell him what he was doing.
Think about that. It's like...
could you please quit scratching?
What would he do then? I mean, so you're making him self-aware, more self-aware than he already was.
I was a much more timid cameraman back in those early days, and so I didn't say a word to him.
I don't know if it would have helped, is my point.
Well, I would today, knowing what I know now, I would have duct taped his arms and then shot high so you didn't see it, and gotten the interview. We got to get the interview. But when we got back to the studio and listened to that, we couldn't use any of it. That sound of that scratching on that leather kind of was like that almost. Made it completely unusable.
And we weren't sure that the sound was going to come through, but it did.
Yep.
It was readily identifiable.
So our journey of shooting these episodes has been educational. we know to get what works and what doesn't work.
Right. And so, and take control of the set.
Yes.
I think you've got to take control of your set.
And make your interviewee comfortable, and let's just have a conversation, have a good time, and remember how things used to be.
I'm ignoring the bell. Are you?
What bell?
Exactly. It's like the squeezy. We're ignoring it. So that's Roger. What does Roger get?
Roger in Avery County, I think he lives in Newland, is going to get a new Ashe County. What am I saying?
We are in Ashe
We're
County.
in Ashe County. He's in Avery County. We're going to send from Ashe County to Avery County via the postal service. I was trying to
Carrier
think.
pigeon. I don't know.
Carrier pigeon. A brand new Germain Media hat and T-shirt. And I believe he requested a blue one. He liked the blue one
There
better.
There you go. Good job, Roger. Thank you so much. And we love to take and hear any of your questions. If we pick one, that's when you get the Germain Media gear.
And post them in the comments below.
Yeah. So thanks again so much for joining us on this Anything Appalachia podcast. We appreciate you following us on Facebook, where you see this video, and also YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, Vimeo, and I'm missing one. Who am I missing?
I don't know, but we're going to wrap it there.
It'll be in the box. That's the fail-safe thing. It's in the box. It's in the box.
Just check below.
So in the words of our good friend Mickey Pruitt, y'all have a good one, and holler if you need us.
Thanks a lot.
That brings to a close another edition of the Anything Appalachia podcast, produced by Germain Media. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and will tune in next time. Until then, here's hoping that you and yours are fine and dandy.